Thank you very much.
It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day.
Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
Sahen echt leicht anders aus von außen. 19th February, 12:53 p.m. Sholmes suite. So this is where the great detective makes his living. It feels surreal to be here somehow. Okay. Is it as described in the in the stories, Miss Susato? Susato-san? Many famous cases have been solved here in this very room. Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. I've never read the stories, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be. The detective chases the villains relentlessly as he disappears into the fog down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism. Can't you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, I suppose I can, yes. So if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a while longer. Please, don't mind me. She's obsessed. Well, it looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. Excuse me, is anybody home? Oh, do we have a visitor? Oh! Hello! Is it a big new case for Mr. Sholmes? Das war doch die Rauchbombe entwickelt hat, die da später war und mit der Lestrade noch geredet hat am Ende des letzten Falls. Hello. Wait. Aren't you... Oh, how rude of me. I'll go and make some tea at once. I'm sure it's the same girl. Miss Susato, did you see the girl who was just here? Oh yes, isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came to this very room to ask Mr. Sholmes to take on his case. The King of where? King Wilhelm Gottsreich Sigismund von Ormstein, of course. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventures of Herlock Sholmes for a moment. And look over there. The tea's brewed, and I have a freshly baked cake as well. Ah, it's you! I knew it. Susato-san recognizes her too. Ah, there you are! And taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial run of my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Oh, good day to you. I am, well, the inventor, I suppose, of that machine. Okay. It's the girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGildett's trial in the defendant's antechamber. I've never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Poor you, having to get straight to work when you've only just arrived in London. Oh, yes, it was challenging. Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know? Oh, thank you. Is tea supposed to look that color? Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavor. Hooray! It's a winner! I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see? You must be exhausted after your long voyage here, and you have another ticklish trial tomorrow. Oh, and you're to defend a Japanese man. I do wish you lots and lots of luck. Woher weiß sie das? Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by any chance? Oh, you know Hurley, do you? Hurley? Wahrscheinlich im Original Shirley und hier Hurley. Hurley. Mr. Sholmes to use, surely. Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see? Was he really? Well, I had no idea. I'm afraid Hurley's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas. Wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial, and only briefly at that. How on earth does she know so much about us? Did she deduce all those things, do you think? And perhaps more to the point, why is she here in Mr. Sholmes' suit? Oh, silly me, I haven't introduced myself, have I? Ich muss mal ganz kurz gucken, wie Suit ausgesprochen wird. Sweet.
Sweet.
Okay, sweet. Ich dachte nur Suit, weil es ohne E halt so ausgesprochen wird, aber das ist dann ja Anzug. Aber sweet, good to know, dann werde ich jetzt sagen, sweet. Das ist ganz schön sweet. Okay. It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson. Das hat sie genauso im Trailer gesagt. I live here together with Hurley. Ah, Iris, is it? What a lovely name. What? What's the matter? No, wait, this can't be. Did you say that your name is Wilson? What's the matter with Susato-san? Why is she so flustered all of a sudden? Naja. Im ersten Fall gab's da so jemanden, der Dr. John Wilson hieß? Yes, that's right. And what are your names? Oh, I'm Ryonosuke Naruto, a lawyer from Japan. Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruto's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba. It's wonderful to meet you. Lovely. Susie and Bruno. Got it. Susie and Bruno. Ist ja fast wie Fini. Weiter. Susie? And Bruno? There's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her. I don't know where to start. Yes, and so do I. Converse. Iris. It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey. Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful. Thank you so much. Oh no, not at all. I'm so sorry we couldn't have been more welcoming. Though, at the time, we did have a rather large gun pointed at us. Like this? Oh. Ah, thinking back now, you left with Mr. Straight in Tao, didn't you? Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade. Oh, Ginny, yes, she's a professional pickpocket. So we found out. It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that. Are you referring to that trial-disrupting, gun-like contraption? Exactly, so I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions. This girl is dangerous. Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician. Sorry, your technician? Hurley, of course, silly. Hurley? Yes, Herlock. Herlock Sholmes. We live here together. I had no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter. Daughter? Not likely. What? I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I? Well, then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? Well, I expect you found out that lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the couch with a partner, a roommate. You are roommates. I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you? Das habe ich mich auch schon gefragt. 10 at last this year. Well, what of your mother and father? Mit 10 schon so eine Erfinderin sein. Alles klar. Oh Mann. So. Wo sind die Eltern? Oh no, they are not around. Oh, I see. I wonder what the story is there. Wilson. Oh yes, there's something I must ask you. Of course, of course. Go ahead, Susie. Oh no. Ihr Dad, also wenn das ihr Dad war, was wahrscheinlich der Fall war, weil es halt John Wilson, John Watson ist, in den Büchern ja der Assistent von Herlock, oder Sherlock. Ja, dann haben wir schlechte Nachrichten für dich. I'm very great fan of the adventures of Herlock Sholmes and... Oh, you have a copy of Residenz magazine. Yes, I read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, this is so exciting. My stories are being read on the other side of the world. My stories? That's right. Hurley is always solving such amazing cases, you see, and he tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It would be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness! Wir haben einfach ein Genius mit 10 schon solche Sachen erfinden und dann noch ein Buch schreiben. Last night he was telling me all about a new case he just solved on a steamship traveling from a faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. So you are the author? Yes, I'll let you in on a secret if you like. I'm going to call this latest adventure The Speckled Band. The Speckled Band. That's certainly very familiar. Of course, I always change one or two details in the stories here and there. Ist das jetzt schon Meta? So ein bisschen, weil das ja auch hieß der Fall. The Adventure of the Speckled Band. Ist das jetzt schon Meta, dass sie unsere Fälle quasi aufschreibt? Und wir quasi jetzt das Residenz Magazine lesen und quasi die Story aus ihrer Hand lesen? Oder interpretiere ich da gerade zu viel rein? Entscheidet ihr. This time I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble. Okay, das stimmt ja nicht. Oh, that was Mr. Sholmes' first thought as well, actually. Yes, and of course I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the fact of the case, exactly, but... It's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling. I think, don't you? So, do you mean to say, are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in Residenz magazine all written by me? Yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter. But all the stories I've ever read are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. Susato-san's getting more and more worked up. Ah, yes, that's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the doctor of medicine part? That's all true, too. I'm a doctor of medicine. No, at 10 years old? At 10 years old? Ja, moin. Okay, da darf man das nicht zu genau nehmen, ne? Well, that's quite incredible. But, Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Ah, yes. I did alter the setting slightly, for the stories to be more compelling. Oh. Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow. I suppose it does, yes. Poor Susato-san. She looks like her whole world has just fallen apart. Oh man. The deduction just now. About before. Yes? Yes? What's on your mind, Bruno? Tell me. How did you know? That I was a lawyer and we just arrived in London, I mean. Yes. Oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all of that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please, tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted. Although, there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin. Iris Wilson is proud to present her Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. Oh Mann. Hä? Als ob sie das jetzt auch macht. Ihre Schlussfolgerung. First of all, I knew already that you were a lawyer, Bruno. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber. But you also said that we'd only just arrived in London. How did you know that? I observed the passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket. Oh, so it was reasonably confined that you must have only just arrived in the country. And on the top of that, you accepted the case against that particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs. The Reaper of the Baby. I walked right into that one, didn't I? Then I noticed a red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with a suspect, weren't you? Earlier today. Als ob die da solche Techniken benutzen. Heißt, das ist so in Indoor-Spieleparks, weißt du? In Hamburg gibt es das Rabatz. Das ist so ein Indoor-Spielepark, habt ihr bestimmt auch irgendwo in einer Großstadt in eurer Nähe. Und da hat man so einen Stempel immer raufgekriegt. Aber doch nicht, wenn man ins Gefängnis geht. Was ist das denn? Ah! They use those stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see? I didn't realize. And the red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So, that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus McGilded, the two of you had already had cause to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particular sad expression on your face, so I concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or a relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case. I see. Sie hat ja actually mehr Ahnung als Herlock, ne? Oh man. But how could you have known that the trial is tomorrow? Well, having barely been home for a few hours yesterday, Hurley solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. He told me that he caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling. A Japanese man? Well, clearly that must have been Mr. Natsume. Now, Bruno has that fancy Japanese sword. And I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both come from Japan yourself. So I put two and two together and decided you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. And there was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case. Tatsächlich eine richtige Deduktion. Ich bin beeindruckt. There's a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley is always stabbing his nose with a knife, you know, he's silly. And that's all there was to it, really. Da hinten ist das wahrscheinlich, wo das Messer drin steckt. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. Well, was it the winner? Were my deductions correct? They were spot on. That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction. You even managed to certain something of Mr. Sholmes' delivery. Oh well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. This is really very good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris? Please? The case of the Japanese man. So yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended the Japanese man, you were saying? Yes. Hurley had just arrived back in London after a sea voyage. But the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene. Ah, the great detective is a popular man, it seems. Apparently, a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had been a short, shifty-looking, stooped man running away from the scene. Pardon my words. But the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene. Hä? Aber ich dachte, die Polizei gibt nicht so viel auf Herlock. Also mag den nicht so. Warum würden die ihn dann consulten? Weiß ich nicht. There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking, stooped man running away from the scene. A short, shifty-looking, stooped man. Stooped. Mr. Natsume, beyond any doubt. Soseki-san said that he didn't see anybody else on the street at all. But it seems there were witnesses after all. Hurley used his great deductive powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police. And what did they find? A short, shifty-looking, stooped man, shivering in fear. Ah, Mr. Sholmes' great deduction certainly hit the mark that time. Of course it did. He's a great detective. Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it? Okay. Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly. Hurley says that London is rife with crime. Oh. Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it apparently. Oh dear, I hadn't realized the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying the criminals in court. Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible. I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system. I suppose it is, but in that case, I don't hold out much hope for Soseki-san. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. This has been very informative. Oh, you are most welcome. I've had so much fun. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well. Ah, well. I expect Hurley is still investigating the scene. Of the case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, Mr. Nuts. May? Nuts May, oh ja, genau. Hurley said he was going to the man's lodging. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there. Iris, do you know where those lodgings are? Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were there? Yes, we know Inspector Gregson. Ah, goody. In that case. Give Gregson this from me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know. What is this? A 5-shilling piece and a postcard, it seems. Iris' postcard has been added to the court record. A card for Inspector Gregson with a message on the back from Iris. It reads, tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem. Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, will it? Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try. Okay. Good luck then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript, The Speckled Band. And I'll be making more special blends of tea, so come back again soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, it's back to the scene of the crime. Oh yeah. So, somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the man of Scotland Yard at all. We headed back to the scene with Iris' curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. To be continued. Alright. Interessant, interessant. Save your current progress. Ich würde sagen, ja. Dann, speichern wir mal. Und ich würde sagen, das war's dann auch für diese Aufnahmesession. Ich werde morgen früh weiterspielen. Ich habe heute schon mehr geschafft, als ich schaffen wollte. Ich habe Fall 3 komplett durchgespielt und jetzt Fall 4 angefangen. Und ja, ich denke mal, morgen in der nächsten Aufnahmesession, spätestens in der übernächsten, werde ich diesen Fall auch durchspielen. Und ja, dann bleibt uns noch das Finale. Aber erstmal bin ich gespannt, wie es hier weitergeht. Ob der Natsume unschuldig ist. Satoru hieß er? Nee. Sasotu? Ich weiß es nicht. Es tut mir leid. Und ja, ich gehe mal ins Menü. Oh, ich wollte ins Menü. Wire Road. Options. Back to Title. Das wollte ich. Don't save. Ja, wir haben gerade erst gesaved. Ist alles in Ordnung. Jetzt nochmal gucken, ob es wirklich gesaved hat. Als ob es jetzt den Hintergrund hat von Herlocks Büro. Continue. Okay, Investigation Part 2. Dann hat es tatsächlich gespeichert. Gut, dann würde ich sagen, interessanter Fall bisher auf jeden Fall. Tatsächlich wieder ein bisschen mehr Investigations. Das erste Mal, dass wir richtig viele Locations auch haben, wo wir untersuchen. Also wir haben jetzt schon wir waren im Gefängnis, wir waren in der Briar Road, wir waren in Herlocks Büro und jetzt kommen wir noch in die Wohnung von dem Natsume. Beziehungsweise in die Wohnung, in die Lodgings auf jeden Fall. Was ist Lodgings? Lodgings. Unterkunft. Okay, ja, dann in die Unterkunft von dem Natsume. Ja, und ich finde es sehr interessant, dass wir im 4. Fall jetzt sind, also schon nach der Halbzeit des Spiels quasi, fast im Endgame, würde ich sagen. Und dass wir jetzt noch so einen Main-Character wie Iris präsentiert bekommen. Die muss ja auch noch irgendwie informiert werden, dass der Dr. John Wilson tot ist, falls wir noch herausfinden, dass das ihr Vater sein sollte, was ja der Nachname irgendwie implied. Und ja, ansonsten mal gucken. Den Inspektor Gregson ist, denke ich, auch ein wichtigerer Charakter. Genau. Mir fällt gerade auf, Fusonaga ist irgendwie von der Bildfläche verschwunden, schon seit 2 Fällen, ne? Aber gut, er ist ja auch ein japanischer Undercover-Polizist. Was hat der in Großbritannien verloren? Wir sollen ja nur nach Großbritannien und nicht er. Vielleicht sehen wir ihn nochmal wieder, ich weiß es nicht. Ich wollte nochmal gern wissen, was mit seinem Husten ist. Aber ja, ansonsten, was habe ich noch zu sagen? Nichts weiter. Also wir haben, ja, wir wissen, dass da eine Messersticherei passiert ist, dass das Opfer schwer verletzt, aber nicht tot im Krankenhaus liegt und dass es scheinbar 2 Zeugen gab und ja, dass Herlock ihn quasi eingebuchtet hat. Das ist so das, was wir, glaube ich, mit nach Hause nehmen sollen aus dieser Session. Genau. Gut, dann verabschiede ich mich jetzt erstmal. Ich bedanke mich fürs Zuschauen, ich bedanke mich fürs dabei sein und wir sehen uns im nächsten Part wieder, morgen 18 Uhr, wie gewohnt. Haut rein, vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen, vielen Dank fürs dabei sein und Einspruch. Ciao, ciao.